Good afternoon, everybody. Big Mike back here with you once again, and welcome back to Big Mike Talks, where today we continue our look at the world of pro wrestling. And my apologies for, not uploading my pay-per-view reviews. They are going to be coming tomorrow, more than likely, because, couple of them were with 3 hours, and it takes time to watch them and take notes. So, my reviews for those shows will be coming tomorrow. This is, of course, the weekly recap. And we start with, of course, Monday Night Raw, which, of course, starts with the Bloodline minus Roman Reigns, because he needs his time off. And, Paul Heyman saying stuff, this is an unprecedented night, we're about to make history. Out comes the Judgment Day, in which I thought, a brawl between these two factions, that could be cool. Where does that leave Sami and KO, though? But it turns out, these two factions, at least temporarily, have an agreement. So they're allies, which is pretty darn cool. During the promo with Heyman and Finn Balor, they bring up Balor's history with Roman. And then we keep seeing Solo Sikoa and Rhea Ripley have a stare down. Yes, please, I'd like that very much. And which Heyman pretty much says to Jimmy, hey, switch places with Solo. He does, and then Rhea realigns with Solo. So that's going to be a fun one. Then Heyman pretty much says, I brought this temporary alliance together to solve some problems. Solo is going to take on Rey tonight, while the Judgment Day take on KO, Sami Zayn, and Matt Riddle later in the main event, which, it's something a little different from WWE. I do like that, but I don't know. I feel like there's a better way to do this. It reminds me of when the Corporation and the Ministry of Darkness mixed. It's a super group, but the pieces don't really fit together that well. You have the Brood hanging out with Big Boss Man. Mentally, it just doesn't make sense. But, it's a wrinkle in this Bloodline story. It shows, Roman is getting tired of relying on the Usos who keep failing. And, it's going to be interesting. So we come from that, and we get the Rey Mysterio versus Solo Sikoa match, in which, this was a pretty fun opening bout of a smaller guy versus big guy, in which Rey actually does really well with these. Take a look at, Batista, Great Khali, Big Show. He does really, really well with giants, and it still shows. Even in his advanced age, Rey Mysterio is one of the best ever. Usos come down. It looks like they're going to get involved. They get jumped by the LWO, which, it's about time they help Rey out in the match. Rey then sets up for the 619. Solo catches it. Samoan drop into the Samoan spike for the win for Solo. Post-match beatdown continues on the LWO. And a 1D for Rey to leave him laying. Honestly, I think this is what WWE needed. A little faction warfare. Don't get me wrong. I love factions. You got the Elite. You got Bullet Club. You got Legado del Fantasma, you got LIJ. There's a lot of great factions out there, and now you can add them with the Judgment Day, the Bloodline. LWO, kind of. We'll see where that goes. But, it's going to be interesting. We then get a backstage in not really an interview, we have Adam Pearce talking with Chad Gable, Otis, and Maxime Dupri. And they're arguing over the draft, which is upcoming, which is next Friday, I believe. So that should be an interesting one. Chad Gable is trying to keep Alpha Academy together in the draft, but Maxime is trying to get Otis into Maximum Male Models, in which it's an interesting little side story that I'm pretty invested in. Especially now that Otis is back to his old goofy self. Like, I've missed that Otis. Like, serious wrestler Otis, it didn't work. And now every time he goes for a worm, he gets a big pop. And, I love it. I love silly, not serious Otis. He feels like he would belong in God, what's the group with Rikishi and Too Cool? I feel like he could fit right into that group and still be taken pretty seriously. Like, Otis worked. And then when they changed him, it did really nothing for him. Now I'm glad he's back. Anyway, next matchup, we got Bianca Belair taking on Dakota Kai. Bianca has a future date with Io Sky, so that should be a good one. And this is Dakota Kai's shot at the world title, kind of. It's not for the title, but it's like, if she wins it here, maybe she gets a shot in the future. It was a fun little match. Both sides did really, really well together, considering they've been working together for a while. Dakota Kai countered a KOD, which that was pretty impressive. Then we got a kind of Death Valley driver into the turnbuckle. Dakota Kai misses a big kick. KOD for the win. So, looks like we won't be seeing Dakota Kai get involved in the Io Sky match. We'll see. And it further discerns the ranks of Damage Control, which I think that breakup is coming soon. And honestly, ever since SummerSlam, Damage Control has felt a bit lower leveled. Like, don't get me wrong, I like all three competitors, but as a unit, they really don't work. Like, hopefully they can all get a decent singles run somewhere. Maybe Dakota Kai can go to SmackDown, and, maybe Bayley could replace him with someone else from NXT. Not saying that's exactly what's going to happen, but we shall see. We then get a Judgment Day backstage promo, pretty much going over the events of the Rey Mysterio match. When Paul Heyman comes in, pretty much says, the Bloodline did our part. Now it's time for you guys to step up again in the main event against Sami, KO, and Riddle. And, we'll see where that goes. We then get a fired up Cody Rhodes promo, pretty much saying, yeah, you know why I'm out here, Brock Lesnar, get out here and let's do this. Out comes Adam Pearce, who has been the GM of WWE, let's call him what he is. Pretty much, apparently Cody isn't cleared to compete tonight, which, I guess it's part of the storyline after what happened on the Raw after WrestleMania, but didn't he have a match on the Raw the week after? I feel like he did. But anyway, Adam Pearce then asked Cody to leave the ring. Initially he does. But then he grabs a chair, gets back in the ring. He's shouting for Brock. Then Adam Pearce brings out security guards. Looks like they're going to escort him out. Cody then starts swinging, in which this is usually what heels do, but seeing a fired up, pissed off Cody Rhodes, it does kind of make sense. It's a bit of a stretch, but I do dig it. Eventually, out comes Brock on the ramp, and he's looking like a really jacked up version of The Undertaker. And that's no lie. He even has the black hat and the trench coat on. It looks very, very weird. And, Cody is trying to fight to Brock. Security guard's holding him back. He gets freed. Another wave of security guard stops him on the ramp. And then Brock just walks off. And that pisses off Cody enough that he keeps fighting security. Then he gets a microphone. Pretty much calls Brock Lesnar not a cowboy, but a coward. So, we'll see where that goes. Fingers crossed it's going to be interesting. And we'll see what happens for Backlash. That match should be pretty good. Next up, a very interesting match. Seth Rollins versus The Miz, and, Miz brought it tonight. Like, it has been a little while since The Miz brought out an A-game for wrestling. This was his A-game. Like, he brought everything to Seth Rollins. Not to say it was a one-sided match. It was not a one-sided match. But both guys look really, really good. Miz then hits a skull-crushing finale, but Rollins kicks out, goes for the worst figure four I've ever seen. Like, no offense to The Miz, he should not be doing the figure four anymore. No chance. We then get to finish a suplex into a Falcon Arrow, into the stomp, for the win for Seth freaking Rollins. We then get a very interesting backstage talk, I guess, with Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and Riddle. And Riddle pretty much comes up, hey, I got some ideas for how to beat the Bloodline tonight. KO pretty much says, Riddle, leave the thinking to us. We're going to come up with the plan. Sami Zayn pretty much says, let's hear him out. Then Riddle says, alright, I wrapped my big toe in tape. Hit Solo with it. And I'm going to call it the toe bro. And KO and Sami are looking at him with this bewildered look in there. Like, is this dude serious? And then Riddle was like, no, I'm not serious. What are you kidding? I have a plan for the Bloodline. I plan to execute it to perfection. Now let's go take out the Judgment Day. And honestly, that little swerve there, it worked. Like, Riddle for so long has been this silly character because let's just say that. Okay? He likes the hashish. Let's call it that. And they based that character around him. They made him silly. He rode a scooter for whatever reason. Now it seems like we're getting a more serious Riddle, which I think is needed, especially if he's going to feud with the Bloodline, which, makes sense considering Solo took him out not too long ago, a while before WrestleMania. I think it was even before the Rumble, actually. So that's that. Next up, match I wasn't looking forward to, but I did think it was going to end a certain way. Inevitably, it did. It's Bobby Lashley versus Austin Theory. Lashley dominated really early. Theory did have some interesting stuff going on, but ultimately, Bobby Lashley was a little too much. Lashley had him in the Hurt Lock for a little bit. Theory backs both of them up into a corner. Big splash from Bronson Reed onto both of them. Theory then rolls out of the ring, and Lashley and Reed continue where they left off last week. personally, I am super happy that Bronson Reed finally has something to sink his teeth into. And I'm interested in where this story goes. Where this leaves Theory, I really don't know. But hopefully we can find a suitable challenger. And maybe the guy to take it off Theory. Like, don't get me wrong, I've kind of enjoyed Theory's title run, but after his match with Cena at WrestleMania, I feel like if there's anyone who needs some more adversity, I think it's Theory. Like, I think he needs to face someone who could not only take it to the limit, but believably take the title from him. We then get a very interesting Trish Stratus promo explaining why she attacked Becky Lynch after the tag team title match. And she pretty much says, look, when you think of the face of the women's division, it should not be Becky, it should be me. When the women's division wasn't taken so seriously, and they were doing pillow fights and lingerie matches, I was there putting on great shows. I was there bringing legitimacy to the women's division. And yet I don't get any flowers. I don't get any congratulations. It's always the 4 horsewomen. And I needed to take out Becky for a while so I can stake my claim to my dominance. And honestly, Becky Lynch Trish Stratus program, sign me up. Now, where this match will happen, SummerSlam, maybe? I think that could be cool. We then get a short but sweet Cody Rhodes interview, pretty much saying, yeah, I'm glad I got this match with Brock Lesnar for Backlash. And it wasn't Brock who was held back by security guards. It was me. And he pretty much says, can't allow Brock to win. So, that's going to be interesting to see where Cody Rhodes' story kind of finishes up. Especially against Brock. We'll see about that. Next, we got a women's tag team match, playa. We have Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan ringside at the announce desk for Candice LeRae and Mia Yim versus Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green. And this was a win by Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green. There was not much to this match. And it's a shame because I definitely want more representation for the women. But the women's tag team division has been just so forgettable. Like, there's nothing to it, and I'm sad to say this. Like, I wish there was a bit more prestige in these titles. A bit more like, hey, these are worth fighting over. Because right now, they more than feel like the 24/7 title. Just pointless, just there for no real reason. Hopefully that'll change in the near future, but we'll see. And final for Raw, we got a 6-man tag team match, playa. As Judgment Day, we got Damian Priest, Finn Balor, and Dominic Mysterio take on Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and Matt Riddle. And honestly, this match went pretty hard. Like, everyone had a role to play and filled it really well, including Solo being Damian Priest being the dominant monster he is, and of course Dom being the cowardly little he is. And during a big old blue thunder bomb, Finn Balor then misses a coup de grace into a stunner, Helluva Kick, and a floating bro from Matt Riddle, with the winners being Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and Matt Riddle. Post-match, the Bloodline take out Zayn, Riddle, and Owens. And this enlists the help from the LWO. So it looks like we're getting a bit of a faction warfare thing going on, which I am definitely in for. Like, I think it's time to name Owens, Zayn, and Riddle. Like, they need a group name. If they're going to be involved in this, they need some sort of group name, unifying t-shirts, something. And no, don't call it like KO Bro or something. Let's call them something more interesting. Alright, that is it for Monday Night Raw. We now go into NWA, in which we start out with a promo from World Champion Tyrus and Jordan Clearwater. Tyrus puts his congratulations on Chris Adonis for a great match at 312, but now he's setting his sights on the Crockett Cup, which is a tag team tournament, which is upcoming in May, which should be a lot of fun. Then Clearwater thinks, oh, I'm going to be his partner. This is going to be great. But then Tyrus says, yeah, I haven't picked a partner yet. So we're going to see where this goes. I'm not sure who Tyrus could pick as a partner. Oh, it's going to... Imagine it be Ryback. Ooh, that'll be... Oh, that's going to be interesting. First matchup we got is for the TV title, as we got Fodder taking on Tom Latimer. And this match was pretty darn good. Little interference from Angelina Love on Fodder's behalf. But overall, it was a good match. They almost went to the time limit, which I do appreciate. But then we get a powerbomb, a crossface for the submission win for Latimer. And I believe he has 6 more defenses to go until he gets a world title shot, which, I wouldn't mind Latimer as world champion. We then get an interview with the Mortons. That's Kerry and Ricky. Pretty much saying, Kerry's ready for his junior heavyweight title defense later tonight. And pretty much announcing the Mortons are going to be in the Crockett Cup. Which, makes sense. Little father and son team. Teaming up, getting ready to go. We then get a Thrillbilly Silas interview, in which he pretty much says, next week, facing Odinson, it's going to be a tough challenge. But in the Battle Royal, Odinson made a mistake in stepping up to me. And apparently his national heavyweight title shot is on the line. Like, I'm okay with stakes, but dude, you just won that. Roll with it. Get ready for the Crockett Cup. Next match, we have La Rosa Negra versus Natalia Markova. This match was absolutely unbelievable. Both the chemistry between both these two was phenomenal. A great, power-speed dynamic, which really, really worked. Try for a beautiful destruction by Markova. That misses into a couple of near falls. Eventually, beautiful destruction is hit into a DDT for a win for Natalia Markova, which, that's going to be an interesting thing. I do hope Markova maybe is in the next in line for a title shot. We'll see. We then get a short Ella Envy interview in which she's happy for her friend, tag team partner, bestie Kenzie Page for winning the women's TV title, and more than likely she's next in line, which, it looks like we're going to be having a dissension in the ranks with Pretty Empowered, which I'm not all that for, but, whatever. If it's their time, it's their time. We then get an EC3 interview. And pretty much saying he's one step from the world title. And he's going to defend the national title wherever, whenever. So, fun little interview. Get some things set up. And then we get our main event of NWA Power. For the junior heavyweight title, it's Joe Alonzo versus Kerry Morton. And I really liked their match at 3-1-2. I feel like this was a step up. Like, this felt like what the match at the pay-per-view should have been. It was 100 miles an hour from the start. A couple miss of the finishers. Eventually, Kerry Morton does hit the... Actually, Joe Alonzo tries for the dice roll, gets rolled up for the Kerry Morton victory. It does feel like Morton is going for more of a heel role in the NWA, although we'll see. Because he's still got some really good matches ahead of him. And next up, we got MLW Underground. And it's time for the War Chamber. Now, what this is, it's single ring in a cage, top surrounded by barbed wire. You get 2 teams of 4. Each team gets one representative in for like 5 minutes, and then every couple minutes, new entrant comes in which once everyone's in the ring, you can win by pinfall, submission, or give up, which, that's kind of interesting. As we got The Calling, that's Ricky Shane Page, Ravens Group, taking on the Second Gear Crew, which is One Called Manders, Matthew Justice, Mance Warner, and their partner Alex Hammerstone, the world champion. And these guys went to war. Like, this was War Chamber at its finest. You got weapons. You got people taking down the barbed wire from the top of the cage. You had, at one point, it did look like Hammerstone got really hurt, and he was exited from the cage and brought to a hospital, which, yeah, it wasn't really announced how long he's going to be out for, but it looks like it might be a significant amount of time. And then ultimately, The Calling get the win after a DDT by Ricky Shane Page. That was an interesting War Chamber. I felt like it was a little too short, though. I do hope eventually it gets a bit more time next time. Then we get a Hammerstone update. They're going to take it day by day and see how long he'll be out for. So that's MLW. We now have AEW Dynamite, in which starts off a little bit low. We have Jungle Boy Jack Perrier coming out for a promo. Before he can get a word in, Sammy Guevara comes out. And then before he can get a word in, Darby Allin comes out. And they pretty much go over their relationships, how Darby and Sammy are alike, how Jungle Boy has been kind of the golden child of AEW, been handed opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. And then out comes MJF, who pretty much says, the next person to get an AEW title shot will be the winner of the Pillars tournament, in which, the 3 Pillars who aren't the world champion are going to go at each other, with the winner getting the title shot at Double or Nothing, which is their next big show. And the pillar getting a bye is Darby Allin. So that means in the main event tonight, we are getting Sammy Guevara versus Jungle Boy, in which, yeah, that sounds like a fun one. We then get a decent little women's match, tag team match play as Jamie Amateur and Dr. Britt Baker take on the Outcasts, being represented by Toni Storm, and Ruby Soho. This match was a really nice back and forth. Chemistry is obviously there. But then, by the end, Britt Baker locks in the lockjaw on Soho and just wins. Nothing afterwards, no run-ins. It felt like the air was taking out of this match a little bit. Like, don't get me wrong, Britt Baker winning isn't the problem. It's just she won a bit too easily for my taste. Like, and then no rebuttal from the Outcasts. I don't know. It feels weird. We then get a Wardlow interview in which he'll be challenging for the TNT title later on in the night. And he pretty much says, the last time I won the title, I had a horseman at ringside with me. This time, I will also have a horseman ringside with me, as Arn Anderson, Double A, comes in, pretty much says, we're going to do some horseman stuff tonight. And I'm going to get you that title back. So, that's definitely going to be interesting. We then get a in-ring promo with the Elite, with Kenny pretty much saying, this has been the worst couple weeks of my life. I've either been sitting at home, watching my friends get their butts kicked, or getting my butt kicked on its own. We then see Bryan Danielson on the video board pretty much saying, oh, you guys aren't professionals, you're not ready for this. And then the rest of the Blackpool Combat Club attacked the Elite from behind. Don Callis then comes out with a chair looking like he's going to swing. He then drops his chair, goes backstage. Brawl continues. Then Konosuke Takeshita comes out and just clears house, including dispatching of Wheeler Yuta. So it does look like Takeshita is going to be at least associated with the Elite, at least until Hangman Page comes back. So, we're going to see what happens there. Next up, we got the TNT title match as Powerhouse Hobbs defends against Wardlow. And honestly, it was a big meaty men slapping meat situation, and I am into it. Looked like QT Marshall was going to gets involved. He hits a big old cutter on Wardlow with the ref's back turned. Then QT gets thrown out. Looks like he's walking up the ramp, ready to go. Pentagon Jr. comes out, super kicks him, chases him back in the ring, and then a big old spine buster by Wardlow. Then we get some Powerbomb Symphony for the Wardlow win. As much as I do like Wardlow, I would have liked to seen a bit more of a significant reign for Powerhouse Hobbs. I feel like he was just getting started with that title. And, I don't know. I wanted something a bit more significant for him. Either way, congratulations to Wardlow. Then coming out to their music, which is fine, is Christian Cage and Luchasaurus. Luchasaurus finally going to get some shine after his comeback. And, yeah, hopefully it's a bit more of a significant story for the TNT title. Then we start with a Sammy Guevara backstage interview that's interrupted by MJF, pretty much saying, what will it take to get you to lay down for me at Double or Nothing? He then gives him a blank check. Sammy Guevara signs the number, and the reaction from MJF. MJF isn't just a great wrestler, he's a great actor. Like, that reaction to that number, it was just, it was so good. It was exasperated for sure, but yeah, it's something that's kind of needed in wrestling these days. And then Sammy Guevara and MJF hug, so it looks like they have an alliance going, where Sammy is going to get in the way of the other pillars and just, finger poke of doom for MJF at the pay-per-view, which, honestly, I'm kind of okay with. This next match, oh boy. A lot of people kind of, I wouldn't say hating on this match, but they have their opinions. We have Jay White versus Commander. And honestly, I kind of see some complaints, like, this felt like more of a Commander showcase instead of a Jay White's showcase. This should have been Jay White's coming out party match. Like, honestly, as a wrestling fan who's been watching some New Japan lately, I know how good Jay White is. But I feel like this should have been Jay White's match. This should have been his showcase, not Commander's. Ultimately, Jay White gets the win. Juice Robinson and Jay White then attack Shawn Spears, who's at ringside doing the 10 gimmick. And then Ricky Starks makes the save. So Spears and Starks. That's an interesting little team. I was kind of hoping Action Andretti would be hanging out with Ricky Starks, but we'll see. Then we get the start of an FTR promo, but then Renee shows FTR a video earlier in the night of Mark Briscoe getting attacked by, who the heck was it? I don't know who it was, actually. FTR then raced to the trainer's room, where J&J and their crew are already with him, and they're arguing on who should go after this crew. And it turned, Mark Briscoe then brings them together. We're going to get an FTR J&J team up, which, yeah, alright, I'm okay with that. Was kind of hoping someone else would be the first challenger for FTR in their tag team title reign. But, yeah, we'll see. Next up, we get a face-to-face between Chris Jericho and Adam Cole, baby. Adam Cole pretty much professes his admiration for Jericho, that he has so much respect for Jericho, and pretty much reveals he's molded his career after Jericho. And then Jericho pretty much says, yeah, I don't respect you at all. I've been watching your takes. You're just an arrogant SOB. Adam Cole then calls Chris Jericho a jagoff. So that was pretty funny. Then calls out the JAS, calling them minions. And which Jericho is the real Jericho? Is it the JAS Sports Entertainer Jericho? Or is it the GOAT, the Demo God, the Jericho we've seen all over the place? Then Jericho pretty much says, oh, don't meet your heroes, kid, especially me. You'll be disappointed. They start brawling, Then Daniel Garcia comes out with handcuffs Adam Cole to the ring post. Out comes Dr. Britt Baker to beg for Adam Cole to be let go. Then the Outcasts come up from behind the ring. They attack Dr. Britt Baker. And then while Adam Cole is handcuffed, Jericho gets a kendo stick. It looks like he's going to hit him. Then he gives it to Saraya, who batters Dr. Britt Baker. That angle was definitely dope. It puts a bit more emphasis on this rivalry. And yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes. Did they have their match at Double or Nothing? Do they have something else in between? We'll see. Honestly, I'm also glad we're not getting the usual Jericho, oh, you gotta get past these 50 guys to get to me thing. Like, it's something different. Something that AEW kind of needed after a while. We then get a short yet sweet match, trios match between the JAS, that's 2.0 and Jake Hager, taking on the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn. And it was stated if the Acclaimed lose this match, they are forced to join the JAS. In which, yeah, I kind of figured that wasn't going to happen. Acclaimed win in a pretty competitive match, but ultimately it was, fruitless. So, hopefully we get something a little bit more interesting for the Acclaimed to do in the near future. Title match, maybe? Like, give me FTR versus the Acclaimed. That should be fun. And final for the week, for at least this part of the week, we got our main event, Sammy Guevara versus Jungle Boy Jack Perry. And this match was at 100 miles per hour from the get-go. We got plenty of stuff on the outside, on the apron. At one point, Jungle Boy had the snare trap in. Sammy Guevara gets to the bottom rope. At one point, we have Jungle Boy being put out on the ropes. Ricky Starks. Sammy Guevara grabs the ref, has his attention. MJF comes out, decks Jungle Boy with his ring on. And then Sammy Guevara pins him for the win. And then afterwards is the most insane celebration. You have MJF picking some Sammy Guevara up on his shoulders, parading him around. So it looks like that alliance is going forward, which I'm pretty excited about. It's something a little different. And we'll see where we go from here. Overall, fun little week of wrestling. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Like I said, tomorrow I'll be reviewing the 3 pay-per-views that were this past weekend. It should be a fun one. Remember to tune in for that. Please like, comment, subscribe, and once again, happy wrestling, everybody. Peace.